Are you anti-Muslim?
I am. I'm against having if people are coming to a country with antithetical views.
And when he's asked this straight question, are you anti-Muslim? All he has to say is, no, I'm not. All he has to say was, I'm against anti-Muslim prejudice. All he has to say was, oh, I'm against criminals. I'm against extremists. That's all he had to say, Piers. But he couldn't do it. Instead, he says, I'm against people who have antithetical views coming into this country. I'm against rape and murder, suggesting Muslims are all guilty of rape and murder.
When you ask the richest man in the world a direct yes or no question, are you anti-Muslim? There is only one reasonable answer. No. That's it. That is the baseline for any public figure operating in polite society. Instead, Elon Musk froze, stumbled over his words for 10 excruciating seconds, and then launched into a bizarre rant equating Muslims with antithetical views, rape, and murder. And when the editor-in-chief of The Economist, Zanny Beddoes, pointed out the factual flaws in his rhetoric, Musk didn't counter with evidence. He called her a traitor to the West. This wasn't just a slip of the tongue. It was a complete mask-off moment for the self-proclaimed free speech absolutist, exposed in real time on Piers Morgan's show by Mehdi Hasan. If you're tired of tech oligarchs using unvetted far-right conspiracy theories to divide working-class people, hit that subscribe button right now. I'm Neel. This is The Honest Perspective. Billionaires don't get a pass on basic bigotry, especially when the receipts prove they're lying. Let's get into it.
Okay, Mehdi, I just want to slightly switch to something that is still involved in all this. The Elon Musk interview, which came out of the weekend with Zanny Beddoes from The Economist, editor-in-chief there. A lot of news lines were made from this, some about AI and so on and so on. But there was a clip of him talking about Muslims. I wanted to play to you, given you're a Muslim.
Are you anti-Muslim?
I'm against having if people are coming to a country with antithetical views. I am against that. I'm against that. You know, I'm against I'm against rape and murder. I'm against the imposition of rules and laws that are contrary to what we've come to accept in the West.
Now, there's a lot of fallout to that, not least because, as he was saying this, new numbers came out which showed that the murder rate in England has dropped to its lowest in 50 years. So this idea, which people like Elon seem to have convinced themselves of being correct, which is that, you know, our motherland is being run over, particularly by Muslims who are raping, pillaging and murdering everybody, is not borne out by statistical evidence. So there's that. Now, Zanny Beddoes, that is on NBC, it's irresponsible for someone with 240 million followers, Elon, to propagate things that are simply not true. And he responded to that huge number of his followers by saying she is a traitor to the West, plain and simple.
Yes.
I mean, that is strong stuff, isn't it? What did you make of all this?
Notice how Piers Morgan frames Elon Musk calling a respected journalist a traitor to the West as merely strong stuff. That is the softball framing mainstream hosts give to oligarchs. But look at what actually happened in that interview clip with Zanny Beddoes. Elon Musk claims to be a warrior for open debate. Yet, the second he gets pressed on his public rhetoric, his default posture is total defensive collapse. He couldn't even manage a basic PR disavowal of anti-Muslim hate. Why? Because disavowing it would mean alienating the far-right echo chamber he caters to every single day on X. Let's head back to the clip where Mehdi Hasan steps in to tear this down piece by piece.
I mean, that's an understatement, but it's not strong stuff. It's outrageous, ridiculous, dangerous stuff. He knows perfectly well that he's putting a target on our back. When Elon Musk attacks people, and I've been attacked by him, you know what happens with his followers. He has a very cultish following like Trump does. It's very dangerous, and it's a ridiculous response, by the way. More than the news lines from that Economist interview was Musk himself and how he handled it. I think the aftermath and the fallout from the interview is more interesting than the interview, because this is the world's richest man who claims to be for free speech, claims to be for debate, but anytime he gets even the mildest of questions, he has a total meltdown. First of all, he rarely does interviews. I know he hasn't done an interview with you. You've been desperate to get one. He doesn't do tough interviews. He melts down when he gets semi-tough questions. Do you remember when Don Lemon interviewed him in 2024? He almost started crying during the interview and then cancelled Don Lemon's show as a punishment for Don asking him questions about his drug use. And now you have The Economist, very sober, mainstream, centrist publication, not woke left at all, as he might say, and he calls this woman, the editor of The Economist, a traitor, simply for pointing out that he doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to British and London crime stats. The three of us are Brits, two of us are British Americans. We all know here in the US, I'm sure Steve gets asked by Republicans, oh, Britain, it's a hellscape, isn't it? And it's not a hellscape, as we all know. And it's ridiculous that he pushes this bullshit. And on the Muslim line, thank you, Zanny, Minton, Beddoes, too many journalists ignore the anti-Muslim rhetoric at the heart of the Musk movement and support for the far right. This is a man who funds Tommy Robinson, who supported Rupert Lowe, two of the most anti-Muslim voices in the UK, if not the West. And when he's asked this straight question, are you anti-Muslim? All he has to say is, no, I'm not. All he has to say was, I'm against anti-Muslim prejudice. All he has to say was, oh, I'm against criminals. I'm against extremists. That's all he had to say, Piers. But he couldn't do it. Instead, he says, I'm against people who have antithetical views coming into this country. I'm against rape and murder, suggesting Muslims are all guilty of rape and murder. Can you imagine if somebody asked Elon Musk or anyone prominent, are you anti-Jewish? And they didn't just say no. They said, well, I'm against people with different views. I'm against rape and murder. It's an outrageously bigoted thing to say by the richest man in the world. I'm glad she asked it. I'm sad that not enough journalists have followed up on that fact. That Elon Musk, the top donor to the Republican Party and Donald Trump, the richest man in the world, the owner of one of the most influential messaging platforms, is an anti-Muslim bigot. And that's not me calling him that. That's him embracing it.
Steve Hilton, what did you make of that? I mean, look, you know Britain as well as I do.
Yeah.
This weird narrative that Elon and many on the right in America seem to have developed, that we're getting literally invaded and overrun by Muslims, you know that's not true. What do you say to people when they say this to you?
Mehdi Hasan lands the critical blow right there. If a major political donor or media owner was asked, are you anti-Jewish or anti any other minority group, and responded by linking that group directly to violent crime, it would dominate global news cycles for weeks. It would be a career-ending scandal. But because the target here is Muslims, it's treated as just another spicy take from a quirky billionaire. Now, watch what happens next in this interview. Steve Hilton, a Republican candidate for governor of California, tries to pivot away from Musk's bigotry to talk about UK bureaucracy. Watch how fast Mehdi brings the receipts on a real-world anti-Muslim terror attack in California that Hilton completely ignored on his campaign trail.
So it's interesting. I hadn't actually seen that clip. I was aware of the interview. I hadn't really followed it. But yes, I think that this is there's a characterization that actually misses the real problem with what's going on in the UK, I think. Obviously, I have an interest in that. Don't follow it closely. But there's something I say on the campaign trail, actually, which is that I don't want this state that I love to turn into the country I left. But what I mean by that is what you're seeing, I think. There was a report that someone sent to me, one of the biggest figures in business in California, sent me a research report on what's going on in the UK with economically, with the inability to build housing, the inability to improve energy infrastructure, the cost of everything, the bloat and bureaucracy and hassle of doing anything in the UK, which I think has produced, I mean, you'll know in more detail, Piers, but a sense of an economic, stagnation that probably is a really big part of why you get all this kind of sentiment. People are just frustrated with what's going on. And this person sent me that report and says, remind you of anywhere. And it does, because that's the way we're heading in California, with this bloated bureaucratic government that's making it impossible to do anything. And so in that sense, I think that that's the real point, I think.
Can I ask a question of Steve just on this subject? In May, there was an attack on a mosque in San Diego. 3 Muslims were murdered. It could have been 100 Muslim school kids murdered in a school nearby. It was 2 neo-Nazi white supremacists. In the past, you've been very vocal in condemning white nationalists. I remember you condemned the attack on the mosque in New Zealand back in 2019. This time, you're running for governor of California, massive terrorist attack against Muslims in your state. I didn't hear a word from you. I tried to look up what you said about it. I couldn't find a single posting.
I was there that day, actually. Funnily enough, Mehdi, I was actually there. I was very close by when it happened. And we went and spoke to local community leaders. Now, you may not have seen anything I said. We had a town hall that day, and I spoke about it. I was actually right there. Just a couple of miles.
Because there's not a single post from you about it that I could find. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
I mean,
What you just witnessed in that exchange is the entire playbook of modern far-right media collapse under the weight of basic, verifiable facts. Let me break down what is actually happening here, because the rhetoric coming from Elon Musk and echoed by figures like Steve Hilton isn't just offensive, it is factually absurd. Elon Musk and his online echo chamber repeatedly insist that the UK and London have been overrun by immigrant crime, specifically targeting Muslims. But if you look at actual data from the UK's Office for National Statistics ONS, the real-world receipts tell the exact opposite story. Official homicide statistics released by the ONS show that the homicide rate in England and Wales dropped significantly, reaching its lowest level since 1977. Total homicides fell year over year, with knife crime and firearm offenses also seeing sharp declines. London's murder rate hit a decade low. So when Elon Musk sits in his media bubble telling hundreds of millions of followers that Western civilization is collapsing due to crime sprees carried out by minorities, he isn't describing reality. He is laundering a false narrative designed to justify xenophobic political policies. Furthermore, let's look at the pattern of how Musk operates when held accountable. Mehdi mentioned Don Lemon. In 2024, Don Lemon sat down with Musk for an interview on X. Lemon asked basic, straightforward questions about content moderation and Musk's documented drug use. Musk almost broke down on camera, got flustered, and within hours canceled Don Lemon's contract on the platform as retribution. When Zanny, Minton, Beddoes confronted him with statistical realities about UK crime, Musk didn't produce data to refute her. He labeled her a traitor. This is not a hero of free speech. This is a fragile billionaire who bought a massive megaphone because he cannot handle criticism, and we cannot ignore where Musk puts his capital. As Mehdi correctly pointed out, Musk has used his platform and financial influence to amplify and legitimize far-right figures in the UK like Tommy Robinson, a convicted agitator whose rhetoric helped fuel anti-immigrant riots across Britain, and political figures like Rupert Lowe. When you promote people whose political brand relies on demonizing a minority group, and then you stumble when asked if you are anti-Muslim, it isn't an accident. It is a business model. Watch how Steve Hilton handled that moment. Hilton is running to govern California, a state with millions of diverse residents, including a massive Muslim population. When confronted with Musk's bigotry, Hilton immediately tried to change the subject to housing policy and bureaucracy in the UK. And when Mehdi brought up the horrific white supremacist attack on a San Diego mosque, Hilton had to admit he never posted or spoke publicly about it on his main channels. This reveals the fundamental cowardice of modern Republican politics under the MAGA umbrella. Candidates cannot call out billionaire donors or far-right influencers because they are terrified of alienating the base that feeds on those exact conspiracies. At The Honest Perspective, we hold everyone accountable to real receipts. It doesn't matter if you're the richest man on earth or a politician running for governor. When you launder conspiracy theories that put target marks on the backs of regular working-class families, we're going to expose it every single time. If you believe in media accountability, real data over billionaire vibes, and standing up against bigotry in all its forms, subscribe to The Honest Perspective. I'm Neel. Truth over access. Always. That's The Honest Perspective, and that's where I'll leave you.